Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Nationals podcast. Today is the 13th of May, 2022. It is Friday, the 13th. Ooh, scary season on that. So Friday the 13th, we got a series to preview this weekend for the Washington Nationals. They host the Houston Astros, their old nemesis, back from the 2019 World Series. We'll discuss that. Dusty Baker once again makes his return to Nationals Park, which is always a fun kind of road to go down. Look at pitching matchups and kind of break down the matchup overall as well. See what Nationals are at. That's coming up on this Friday edition of Locked On Nationals.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, hello everybody. Once again, Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Nationals podcast, 13th of May, 2022. It's a Friday. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at @LO_Nationals. You guys can follow me right there at Josh Neighbors _. You guys can find the show wherever you get your podcast, and you can find us on YouTube as well. All right, so if you guys want also a recap of that Mets-Nationals series, you guys can find that, and it's in your podcast feeds. It's on YouTube as well. Full breakdown, all three games. They all happen in quick succession, so I decided to do it that way. And then now we have a preview of the Astros series coming right here. But as we normally do, I took stock yesterday. Let's take stock again. The Nationals are 11-22. They are 11 games back of the New York Mets, who are in first place. Just flip the records. They're 22-11. The Nationals are 4 games back of the Marlins, who are 14-17. They are 4.5 games back of both the Phillies and the Braves, who are both 15-17. They are respectively 6.5 games back. Marlins 7 games back of the Mets. The Nationals are 4-13 at home. They have a -30 run differential overall. Their current streak is they've lost one, and they're 4-6 in their last 10. You want to compare that with the Houston Astros, who are 21-11. They are the hottest team in baseball right now. They have a +34 run differential. They're 12-7 on the road this year, and they've got a 10 straight game winning streak, which means obviously they're 10-0 in their last 10 games. They're coming off a series sweep of the Minnesota Twins that brings them here to Washington. And look, before we get to the matchups and kind of break it all down, you knew when the Nationals and the National League East drew the NL West this year, you knew that this was inevitable, right? You knew that this was coming. You knew that you would see the Nationals and the Astros tangle. The big question would be, where was it at? And that's pretty interesting, right? Because both have storylines. If you go back to that 2019 World Series, and I know all of you who are fans remember it pretty fondly, but if you need a refresher, that was a series where the road team won every game, which was strange. I'm not sure if that happened before in a World Series. But, the Nationals come home in that series. They go back to Nationals Park, and they've got a 2-0 lead on the Astros. And you're thinking, oh, my God, they're in great shape. All they have to do now, they've won 2 against this team. Can they go and can they win, can they win 2 of 3? And at home, or even if they just went 1-2 at home, all they would need is game 6 or 7 to get the win. And you remember, in the game 3 of that series, it's the 4-1 loss. In game 4, it's 8-1. In game 5, it's 7-1. The Nationals offense just went completely quiet, though, there in those middle 3 games. And what's really interesting is there are so few parts of that current World Series team that are still left with the Washington Nationals. And you flip it on the other side. I mean, there are, I know there's been some changes, but there are a lot of guys remaining from that 2019 team. I mean, Bregman and Brantley, and you think about Gurriel, Alvarez, Altuve. I mean, this is still a team, that's got so much of that 2019 World Series left in them, right? I'm going to go back and look at the 2019 numbers, 2019 postseason for the Astros right now. But Altuve, Gurriel, Brantley, Alvarez, Bregman. I mean, this team, so much, Maldonado. I mean, there's so many guys who are still left, especially in the lineup from that team. And, Garrett Cole is obviously moved on now, but Verlander is still there. Urquidy, I believe, is still there. I mean, they've got a lot of guys, and ironically, Will Harris is now on the Nats. And it's funny enough, he really hasn't pitched a whole lot, but he was a big part of that team. So still not just remnants is what I would say the Nationals have left of their team, right? I mean, at this point, remnants. I would say for the most part, I know George Springer is gone, but like the core of what made that team is still left, and I think that's pretty. It's pretty impressive that they kept that team on. I mean, the Nationals have shown you how hard it is to keep that team together, keep windows going, and the Astros have definitely kept their window going for much longer. I think and really impressed by doing so. Now, once again, Nationals fans probably don't want to hear that, but still, you have to be impressed with how they've maintained this core. They might be dirty, rotten cheaters, but they have maintained the core up to this point, which has been really impressive. I mean, you go and look at the national stats in the 2019 postseason, and I'm going to go through the guys. Just think about who's not here. Turner is gone. Kendrick is gone. Eden is gone. Rendon is gone. Zimmerman has retired. Suzuki is gone. Cabrera is gone. Gomes is gone. Taylor is gone. Anibal Sanchez actually back, which is funny enough. And then you go through the guys that are still there. Soto is still there. Robles is still there. Anibal Sanchez is back but has not played yet. Max Scherzer is gone. Strasburg and Corbin are obviously still there, but really haven't seen a lot of them. Joe Ross still there. So, that's why I would say remnants. And while Corbin and Strasburg are still in D.C., it feels like the term remnants makes sense because their games are really, there's just remnants left of what those guys were. I mean, Strasburg goes to the 60-day IL, which means they got a chance to bring him back here in the not near future, but in the future here, relatively in the next couple months, right? Corbin has just found that stride that he had, arguably back in 2019. Both these teams have gone on completely different trajectories, since the World Series of 2019. And you go list of World Series, the Astros have been involved in so many of them, and they obviously, got one of their own. But you go back, last year the Astros lost in 6 games. Back in 19, they lost in 7 games. Back in 17, they got their World Series. I mean, they put together a really nice run over the last 5 years, starting in 2017, and have put themselves, 1-1, have lost a couple as well. And Dusty Baker got a taste of that and lost last year. We'll get to him in 1 second, but the Nationals obviously nowhere to be found since. Quick word from our sponsors, then we'll talk about Dusty Baker making his return, which I'm a huge Dusty Baker guy, so I'm always happy to see him at Nationals Park. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. Go to Built.com today. That's Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15, LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com today. Imagine dipping your finger into that plastic tub of birthday cake frosting And then opening your eyes, realizing it was only 150 calories and 16 grams of protein. That's what it's like to eat the new birthday cake puff bar from Built. 150 calories, 16 grams of protein, only 9 grams of sugar. It's a limited time flavor, so go pick it up at built.com today. Use the promo code LOCK15, LOCKED15, LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com today. All right, so the one thing we always like to mention too is that Dusty Baker is making his return once again. Also, shout out to his Wikipedia page. The picture on Wikipedia, it is still Dusty Baker as a national. Actually, I mean, this is my benefit right here of having Restream up. I can share. Boom! Look at that right there. Dusty Baker still right there. The guy from the Nationals on the Wikipedia page. It's still a picture of Dusty with the Nats. But look, man, so I think I made it pretty clear, though. I thought Dusty could have had one more year, and I think he might have. I thought he could have won it right after he was done. But think about his time. I mean, this is a guy that, as a manager, has had a really successful career. He's won over 2,000 games. Now he's lost 1,745, but especially in his latter part of his career, really back here towards the end. I mean, there were some rough years there in Cincinnati, but since 2010, he has won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 division titles. And then, since his time in DC, 16 won, 17 won, and then goes to Houston 2021, won, and is in pole position here right now, at least as it speaks, to win. Now, that division's been a real good one. The Angels have gotten themselves off to a really strong start. But, it looks like it could be the Angels and the Astros going toe-to-toe here the rest of the way, which would be awesome, which would be really exciting. I've said this a bunch. AL West baseball is the baseball I watch the least, and that is because it is on at a late time at night, and also it involves teams that usually don't really matter to the Washington Nationals normally. If it does down the line, maybe a playoff series, things of that nature. But generally speaking, that stuff does not affect us here in Nats land. So you don't watch it a whole lot. But Dusty Baker, man, to be that age, I know there's a lot of old managers who've done really well, La Russa and Showalter and Dusty, but to be 72 and to keep this thing rolling, I mean, his time while he has been with the Astros, yeah, it's a great team, but he's 143 and 109, which is good enough for a 567 winning percentage. And also in the playoffs, he's been pretty good as well, 12 and 17, it's 586. But he's trying to win more now, trying to get it done late in the postseason, and it's difficult to do. But I have a lot of confidence in Dusty. I think the Astros make it back this year. They're always going to be a dangerous team. So we'll preview that matchup. Let's look at it here in 1 second. First, one final word from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. Today, if you want to bet on this Astros Nationals series, you all can do that. Go to BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. They got football, they got basketball, they got baseball, they got hockey. Hopefully the Capitals can pull through tonight. If you guys want to go bet on the Caps, you guys can go to BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. BetOnline, my friends. It's where the game starts. We're sparkling water this morning. Big bottle. I'd like to make sure we're hydrated. So the big bottle of sparkling water is out and ready to go. All right, so let's talk about this 3-game series on the weekend, as they say. So here's how things line up. 7:05, 7:05, 1:35 ESPN Plus on Friday night. And then you have your local TV partners for games 2 and 3 of the series. Gray versus Valdez, Fetty versus Odorezzi, and Corbin versus Verlander. So I actually like these matchups a lot. Those are the 3 best pitchers going for the Nats right now. And I know that's, not saying a lot, but look, you have to be honest. I mean, all those guys have pitched well, at least as of late. And so the first game is Framber Valdez against Josiah Gray. Let's start there. Framber Valdez has just kind of been solid so far this year. Really hasn't had any outing except for one against Los Angeles where he got touched up. But, he had the rest of the way, he's been strong so far this season. Last time out, 6 innings, 9 hits, 2 runs, both earned 7 Ks and a walk, 96 pitches and a 3-2 win. Then the game before that was a 3-2 loss, 6 1/3, 2 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 1 homer, 2 walks, and 2 Ks. And so he's been consistent so far. Once again, save that one blow-up game. The rest have been really good. I mean, he has been strong to start the season. A 3.15 earned run average in April, and then May he's done well so far. Overall, 1-2 with a 3.34 earned run average. Framber Valdez is still just 28 years old, and he's done really well, I think, for them. And then on the other side, Josiah Gray is going to be countering. And, Nats fans watching this 24-year-old is our version of must-see TV right now. And you might say, well, it's not saying a whole lot, but, this is a guy that is, when he is pitched, the Nationals are 3-2 in those games. He's gotten a decent amount of run support, which is good, but his quality of pitching, I should say, has really stepped up. Last time out, 5 1/3, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 homers, 2 walks, and 3 Ks. But the previous time, that's when he gave up 6 innings, 1 hit, no runs, 4 walks, and 3 Ks. So watch those walk numbers. Fly ball pitcher does like to attack the zone. Let's see how the Astros get after him tonight. The Nats arm the Astros have not seen. But our guy Josiah Gray, 4-2 with a 3.45 earned run average, and he's top 40 in the league in strikeouts right now, which is good as well. So encouraging signs. If I had to pick a game to watch, I usually pick the Gray games. I'm going to pick another one right here. And I'm doing that because you think about like every single one of his starts is exciting. This lineup poses a great challenge to him. And I think we all want to see how he works through that. So next up on the docket, Eric Fetty against Jake Odorezzi. Let you all know how Odorezzi has done this year. The answer, very well. The pitching for the Astros has been strong so far. Odorezzi is 3-2 with a 3.38 earned run average. And his last 3 starts, he has been dynamite. Over the course of the last 17 2/3 innings, he has surrendered just 1 earned run. While over the course of those 17 2/3, he has struck out 12. So not a guy who's a super high strikeout guy, but has been strong, especially in those last 3. Had a couple really bad outings against Los Angeles and against Seattle, but since then against Texas, Seattle, and Detroit, he has been part of 5-1, 3-0, and 5-0 wins. So Odorezzi is riding a hot streak right now for him. Once again, not a high strikeout guy, but he is somebody who has pitched very well. On the other side, they're hoping for steady Fetty, who is 2-2 with a 3.90 earned run average on the year. Eric Fetty, obviously, if he can keep this earned run average around 4, that's a great place for him to be. So far this month, 12 innings pitched, 8 hits allowed, 7 Ks, 1 earned run. So he's off to a really nice start in this month. The key for him is, I would just say, avoid the wall. A lot of these guys got some control issues, and Fetty likes to nibble some, and that's why we've seen him. In the month of April, the 6 ERA did not make it through more than 5 full innings. That started against Colorado, a 10-2 win. We talked about how sometimes they go out west, and Fetty does well. That was an example of that. So he's going to watch how much he nibbles around the zone, because that's what kind of keeps him from getting length sometimes in these games. Pitching well right now. Let's see if he can maintain that. I think the key for him is keep that ERA under 4. No, it's not always the best, indicator, but the Nationals, I think when you thought about a Gray and you thought about a Fetty last year, it's a big key. Hey, can you be a steady guy? Can you steady Fetty, right? Can you be a guy who goes out there and gives them, quality starts and keeps them in games? And we talked about this. It's not just for Eric Fetty's future with the Nationals. Maybe it's elsewhere too, just because of his age. He might be getting to a time where the Nationals are saying, hey, we might be done with you, or, you need to move on. So I think it's a critical time for him to keep pitching like this and provide that. And then last game, this is a doozy of a pitching matchup in theory, right? But right now, Justin Verlander has been lights out. 4-1 with a 1.55 earned average, 36 Ks, and a .64 whip. That is the best in the American League. And look, man, this is a guy that even at the age of 39 from Manicansabit, Virginia, Goochland County, friends, I live in Goochland County. I am of the Verlander, of the place where this man is from, a legend in these parts, and he's been a legend this year, to steal a term from our guy Peter Pratt. And look, 14 2/3 innings worked, 5 hits, 2 runs, both earns, 1 homer, 2 walks, and 8 Ks so far in the month of May. He had a 1.73 ERA in the month of April. One start that makes you look at and you say, all right, that wasn't that good. It was six innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 2 homers, 1 walk, 5 Ks. That was a bad start. It was 3 runs through 6 innings. That was the bad start on the year for Verlander. He has been lights out. Now, he's going to draw the assignment of going head-to-head with Patrick Corbin. This is going to be fun, right? Patrick Corbin, last seen having, by at least the Astros, last seen having a whole lot of success there towards the back end of the year. And you think about the job that he did. I know he got touched up a little bit in game number 2, or the second game rather, that he pitched in the World Series. But, had a really strong effort later on in the World Series. And besides that one time, 4 runs over 6 innings, it's not awful, right? But then he has the other times that he worked the 3 innings, 2 hits, 3 Ks, and really was a big part of propelling the Nationals in that World Series. And in that Game 7, how good was Corbin? They'll get a good look at him again, and also a Patrick Corbin that we know right now is pitching some of his best ball that he has, not just this season, and not just last season, and not just since 2020. This is the best that Patrick Corbin has looked. In the last, we're going to go last 19 innings for Corbin, a sub-3 earned run average in that time. He's struck out 16 people in those last 3 starts as well. Did the 4 walks in the last game. The problem is the Nationals have lost every single time Patrick Corbin has pitched this year, although last 3 times out wasn't really his fault. He pitched pretty well. So Corbin versus Verlander is your final pitching matchup. Should be pretty exciting to watch that one and see how that one plays out for the Nationals as they take on their 2019 World Series counterparts this year. That would be the Houston Astros. That series is coming up this weekend. Once again, 7:05, 1:35. Your start times, ESPN Plus for Game 1, or also Masson. And then I forget what the Houston television one is now. But you guys can watch all of those on Masson. All right, that will do it for today's show. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at @JoshNeighbors_. Follow the show at @LO_Nationals. You guys can find me on Twitter, as I mentioned, at @JoshNeighbors_. You guys can find the show wherever it's get your podcasts from, and also on YouTube as well. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.